Greetings, everyone. I am your humble dungeon master, Ralph, at Cthulhu on Twitter.
And I am DMing an Eberron 5th edition game for these fine folks. Presently, we are picking up where we left off last session. The party is riding the Lightning Rail, the Spire Express, a train that will carry them from the gnomish nation of Zelargo to the city of Sharn in the nation of Breland. They got underway, having defended a ruby of some particular interest from the goblinoids that seem intent on stealing it away from the museum where it had been housed. And they have been tasked by one of the spy masters of the gnomish nation of Zelargo to take this ruby and ferry it away from his nation into the waiting hands of an operative that they will meet in the city of Rote, which is several days' train ride away. A couple hours into the train ride, there was an announcement of an underground card tournament, the Unicorn's Run, that would be taking place over this 3-day trip to Sharn. Then there was an announcement over the PA system built into the Lightning Rail that there would be some need for the passengers to help defend the train from an oncoming yelping horde riding down off of the ridges nearby. But before we launch into that, I'm going to just throw it around so the players can introduce themselves and their characters here. Let's start with Al.
I'm Big Al, at Big Al, at Big Al the Lawyer on Twitter, playing Talion Till Devande, a gnome from Zelargo with big dreams and sometimes a bigger mouth.
And no aim with a crossbow.
Well, actually, sometimes an excellent aim with a crossbow.
Last session, no
Not
plan.
last session, no.
I'm Andy at Blackball Press on Facebook and Twitter. I am playing Gideon Blacklake, a human fighter from the proud nation of Karnak. And I'm probably reading a book and ignoring this tournament.
Okay, I'm Julia. I'm playing Azure, the Storm Sorcerer Dragonborn. And I guess you can find me at This Nerdy Home on Facebook.
All right, and my name is Michael. I'm the host of the RPG Academy podcast. Everything I do can be found on there, and Twitter I'm at the RPG Academy. And in this game, I am playing a ghost, a warforged who was created on the day of mourning and is kind of ignorant of the world but wise in the ways of books and asks a lot of questions.
All right. So as I suggested as much, a short while after the train departed, it left around 11 a.m. from the platform in Korranberg, where the majority of the action from this campaign has taken place thus far. And you are bound for Sharn. Only a few hours into the train trip, after lunch, did this announcement of the card tournament come up. Kind of a shocking moment of miscommunication or perhaps intentional obfuscation by the gnomish ringleader of this pack of gamblers. But regardless, after that, a conversation transpired between Talion and Azure with a dwarf, formerly of House Kondrak, who implied that he had some information that might be of value to you, and that he wanted to see some coin in exchange for that information. There was a brief conversation with him, and then a promise of talking over dinner. At this exact moment, when we pick up a ghost, you are in passenger car A. You are in one of the 2 rooms. They basically sleep 2 to a room that has been procured for you. All the expenses paid this trip to Sharn. And yeah, Codger looked into getting you a book that would hold your interest, hoping that it would keep you busy. He actually suggested to your companions that they just lock you in the cabin with sitting on it, since you didn't need to eat or sleep, and then you'd probably be the best candidate for it in his estimation. That being said, the rest of you are in sitting car A when you hear this announcement. The voice is... they introduce themselves as a co-captain, which leads you to believe that there are two dragon-marked individuals of House Orion on this train presently who share the rank of captain. And in no uncertain terms, this co-captain basically suggests to you that as a condition of your safe passage on Orion rail lines, you have agreed, if you are able, to defend it against all all potential hostile entities within and without. So at this announcement, you could see there was a family of Syrian refugees. They immediately head back to passenger car B to kind of seal themselves up. And then you could see some of the other individuals are kind of springing to different actions. Some of them heading off to maybe just take refuge in their cars. Some of the stewards are bustling about quickly. You're not sure if they have concealed weapons or things like that. But in this immediate moment, the train is kind of winding through a part of the passage, the path between Korranberg and Zollen. No, the path between Korranberg and... Yeah, it is Zollenberg. Winds through the mountains a little bit. In the area that you're in, you're basically snaking through some of the ridges that House Orion didn't want to beat into the ground. So you could see, looking out the windows, if you do so, or you could see others kind of peering out the windows at the moment. There are a number of, indistinct shapes, definitely humanoids riding on some sort of mounts, pouring down from the ridges ahead of you, coming to intercept, basically. So what preparations are you making in this moment? Like I said, the rest of the party is in the sitting car, as far as I'm aware, and a Ghost, you're in passenger car A. They're only about one car away from each other, so you could reach them fairly quickly.
I think I'm gonna go get Ghost in just a moment, but as I get up, is anyone else among, especially the poker players or the has anyone else drawn visible weapons or it appears to be of fighting shape?
Yeah, there was a Brellish man who had a booth in the sitting car, just a little ways ahead of you. He has one arm, which you peg pretty immediately marks him as a veteran of the last war. He stands up and he conjures up a spectral blue hand, and with that hand pulls a wand from his belt, and you can see that he's talking to his Warforged companion in a somewhat hushed tone pretty quickly. He looks like he's arming himself.
Okay. If I can, on my way to go get a Ghost, I'm gonna kind of acknowledge them and say I'll be right back. And I'm heavily armed and armored. They probably very obviously know I'm somewhat capable.
Sure.
I'm going to see that exchange, and I'm just going to go hang out with the guy that's more of a fighter than I am. I'm just going to say I'm with him. He'll be right back, so I'm here.
Okay. And Ghost, are you distracted from your book in this moment, do you think? Or
I actually think that I'm probably engrossed with the book, because I actually think Codger probably did get a good book. So I think by the time Gideon comes in, I will hold up a finger and I'm trying to hurry and get to the end of the book. And eventually I'll get frustrated. I'll flip to the last page and went, yep, Butler did it. Throw the book down, stand up and go, let's go.
All right. And
Well, now you spoiled that one. I won't be able to read it.
Well, if you read it backwards, it's more about a mastermind Butler putting all his plans in place. So
yeah.
Why would... What?
Yeah, this was
Come on.
this was a bestseller out of Sharn in the recent years. Murder at the Tane Gala. Obviously, the Tane family wasn't a big fan, but they couldn't stop the press on that. And Azure, what are you doing at this moment?
So I was going to be going into the gambling pot there, but I'm going to keep an eye on what is it Kisbar, the gnome with the outlandish outfit? What is?
That's Talion.
No, there's two.
They're multiplying. They're grim ones. Do we get him wet?
Quisbar does take off running. And actually, so this is still like the late afternoon. The card tournament was going to begin more after dinner, after they clear out the dining hall a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you guys are still several hours out of Zollenberg at this moment. But Quisbar runs. He runs in a way that suggests that he's got a bit further to go. So I think since you're like noticing that, you think that he has one of the first class cabins, and that's like several cars back from you. So to kind of describe the layout of the train for you all, there is a helm followed by your guys' cart and passenger car A. Then there is the sitting car, passenger car B, the dining car, the first class car, the galley cart, and then there's two cargo cars and a helm at the other end. I think instead of turning the trains about, they actually just transfer the air elemental from one point to the other. So there's typically like two helms, and this is pretty standard. I think most lightning rail trains are probably like 8 to 12 cars, so this is about 10 cars worth of hauling at the moment. So you think he might have one of the first class cabins. And looking about, aside from the Brellish man who actually introduces himself to you, Talion, since you kind of acknowledged him, he uses his mage hand with a wand in it to kind of point to himself, and he says, Monty, and he points to the warforged that's with him, and he says, Menace. And you can see, let's say, Menace, like the crossbar of a crossbow kind of snaps forward from his forearms, and you can see that he's got like a modified arm to act as a crossbow. They were also a couple of the individuals who paid Quisbar for entrance. Actually, Monty did, but Menace did not. So you know that at least one of them is a bit of a gambler. But either way, so by that time, Gideon, you've got a ghost. I'm assuming you're going to all kind of group up in the sitting car for the time being, or is there any other?
Well, so I had a question about what are we doing with the gem? Do I physically have it like in a pocket? Is it in a box under the seat?
So you were given, like I said, it's a sort of like extra dimensional belt pouch. You don't know how much more in volume it can hold, but you know that it's kind of removing the gem from this plane of existence, which they are just kind of doing as a precaution.
Okay.
So it's a belt pouch. You could tie it on. You could, however you think is best to conceal it.
All right. I'll just sort of twist it almost like a fanny pack to the back so that my glorious fancy cape covers it.
Yeah. All right. Perfect.
Does this make my ass look big?
When Gideon and a ghost show up, I'm gonna use Mage Hand myself just so I can show these other guys that I can do it, and I'm gonna kind of point to them and say
Mage Hand envy.
Monty and Menace. So I'm gonna make sure everybody knows who they are.
Arriving back, I will introduce myself and kind of try to assess their capabilities. Obviously the one guy is some type of spellcaster. Warforged,
Yeah, give me I would say investigation.
Sure.
Just looking them over.
Well, that'll do. That is a 17.
Okay. So Monty is, like I said, you peg him as being Brellish, from the nation of Breland, or Brelish, I guess. I don't know. I gotta get my pronunciation straight on that. He looks to you, like I said, to be a veteran of the last war, and given the wand that he has and the cantrip that he's casting, but you don't see, he doesn't look like a very book-learned individual. He looks kind of like a little rough and tumble, like his nose has been broken and it hasn't quite set properly. He has all the bearing of like a mage right to you. And Menace, he looks like a pretty standard Warforged. Nothing at all like Ghost. And you can see with his arm modification that, that's not a standard issue thing, so that could have been post-war tinkering.
Yeah.
But it just looks like these two might have worked together previously, just from the... But they don't strike you as, like, mercenaries. They just strike you as, wanderers. Nothing menacing about them.
Hello, fellow adventurers.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. See, this is it. This is the type of emergency situation that sets off dad alarm. So Gideon is trying to get a handle on the situation and is probably barking orders at this point.
The only other person who was kind of in the sitting car when this all started to unfold is an elderly halfling woman. And I think I described her before as, like, she has, like, a red sash over, like, some very, like, worn traveler's clothes and, like, patchwork leathers. She gets up and, kind of dragging this tiny lizard creature behind her, she starts shuffling at a, pretty slow pace. It looks like she might have a cabin in your guys' passenger car because she's heading in that direction. You could see that the lizard creature that she's pulling behind her just seems like maybe as old as she is. It's kind of it's stooping a little bit lower than its like elongated neck would suggest. But she's just pulling it along and talking to it in a language I don't think that's familiar to you guys. Other than that, there's no other non-combatants here that necessarily need ordering around. I think in this moment, as the horde is kind of drawing a little bit closer to you, you can see that one of the stewards does come back in to the sitting car with a crossbow. So to describe what you're seeing, since the train is moving forward at its normal pace, and so looking out the windows on either side of you as this group is kind of riding into sight, you can see like maybe 24 or more on either side of the train, just kind of riding down on either side of it. As they're getting this close, you can see that they, unlike the hobgoblins that you guys encountered before with their like yellow skin and tusks and whatnot, these guys, they have a bit more fur on their body. They still have the kind of tusky maul. And you can see that they're riding on the backs of, just oversized wolves. I would say, Gideon, I think you might have the most experience with, like, Dakani mercenaries and kind of your introduction to goblinoid culture. You think these are bugbears on worg-back.
Okay.
So as they are drawing closer, the kind of constant thrum of the conductor stones under your feet has kind of been a constant, and you can start to hear their yelling. You obviously can't make out words or anything, but you can start to hear the yelling and shouting, and you start to see like a couple of them, even at this distance, knowing that they're probably not going to hit, are loosing javelins that are kind of flying, maybe one or two clang off of the...
Yeah. At this point, I'm in full military drill sergeant orders. So yelling, take cover from the sides, open the doors between the cars, and especially ordering like probably Azure and the Breelish fellow to take to the middle and cover the entrances. Anything comes in, blast it.
Okay.
I'm gonna post up near the more southern, or towards the more rear entrance, and weapon at the ready. If something crosses the threshold, it's gonna get whacked.
All right. Well, as this horde is pouring down from the slopes and kind of encroaching on the area where you guys are going to be riding through, let's go ahead and everybody roll initiative for me. And I'll take it from...
Oh! Mr. Slowpants goes first.
All right, let's start with you then, Gideon. What did you get?
Natural 20. Actually, 19 because I have -1, but I'll take it. Little victories.
Aw,
Azure.
21.
Oh.
Screw you.
Talion.
9.
You could say you stole my thunder.
And a ghost.
I got an 18 total.
Wow.
21.
Oh, 19. Sorry.
I anticipated this. I am not a fast dude. I actually have a limit.
Okay.
Like a noticeable limit.
Perfect then. So just to give you a little bit of idea of how this is going to work, the cars are usually, they're roughly about like 60 feet in length, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. So I'm just going to go ahead and say though that you can pretty much move from one car to another, or from the car that you're currently in to the roof. Just assuming that you are on one half or other of kind of the equator of that car or whatever. So, if you want to burn a dash action, you can cover, 2 in that time or whatever. And also to give you an idea of this, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of bugbears and wargs. So for our purposes, they're not going to really be treated as separate targets. I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on them as a whole and then describe accordingly.
It's a swarm.
It is. Yeah. It is essentially a swarm. Yes, it is a Margle horde. So that being said, Azure, you are acting first. The horde has pretty much poured in. So like the nearest constituents to you are maybe like 15 feet away from either side of the train. And it ranges out from there to about 30 or 40 feet away beyond that. But there you can see that they are coming closer. And some of them may be looking to board. And also, as this frame of reference is becoming available, you don't think that they're going to be able to keep pace with you for long. You think, because of the terrain and because of the kind of cruel way that they're driving their beasts, they're getting more speed out of them than they can sustain for a prolonged period. So,
Gotcha. So it's more like they're just, putting up a show for us, it seems.
Yeah. It's more so that, you might just have to endure this for a short period, but you will outpace them, you think, so.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm going to pull out, I'm near one of the ends of the cars, right? Guarding the entrance to the car.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say also, if you occupy, the area between the cars, you're a little bit more exposed there. There's a railing and a little bit of a step over to the next one. Otherwise, if you take up a space at a window of the sitting or dining cars, you get a little bit of cover. The passenger cars would give you the most cover, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm thinking that might actually be easier with being in the center of the car. Would I be able to hang my head out and use my breath weapon against them?
Sure, absolutely.
Cool. All right. So that is a...
they just make a dex.
Yeah, they make a dex save. Otherwise, face the wrath of my lightning.
Oh, yeah. I feel like they're about to face some wrath. I got a 2 on the die here, so let's not even worry about what your DC is.
Say 30-foot line. So... Let me roll this on a more even surface here. That is 9 damage.
So they seem particularly susceptible to this, especially since it's a line. So you lance out, and I would say just kind of from the height and with your aim, you're probably hitting the bugbears more than their mounts. But you, the shock of it causes one of their muscles to seize up, and he slides from his saddle and just falls to the ground, immediately just being pinballing away from you. It seems like this horde is particularly susceptible to areas of effect, so they actually are going to take double that damage.
Right. All right.
So I just
So essentially this hazed guy. All right.
yeah.
That was so cool. Did you see that? She's done great. Lightning came out of her mouth.
Yeah, you should be doing something similar.
Yeah, and then so the line continues through that guy and shocks another, and maybe you hear like one of the wargs kind of yelp in pain briefly. But yeah, you lanced out at some of the ones that were drawing closer, and you can see maybe a little bit of reservation in some of the others that were nearby. Did you want to do anything else with your move or your bonus action?
Gosh, maybe a second. I was asking for a spell. I think I'm good for now.
Perfect. Well, after Azure goes Gideon.
This is where I wish I had that the one maneuver that it was like, you do a thing. Next level, it's coming.
Yeah.
I am probably just going to keep a readied action, and if anything comes within melee range of the entrance, if they get that far, they're in for it.
Okay, perfect. So then after you would be a ghost.
So a ghost is looking out the window. I guess I'll focus on the same side that Azure attacked. And I guess if you'll tell me, I can look at this. I'm looking for a vector point where either there's more than one right in a line with each other, or there's a couple coming together to a small point. Like the way they're riding, I can target a point that will hit more than one is what I'm trying to accomplish here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so you're looking for like ones that are lane splitting, basically, I guess, or whatever. Yeah. I think that's the terminology. I'm not a biker. Yeah. And what are you going to attempt to do when
I'm going to cast Grease. I figure they're charging really fast towards us, and that might be effective, and it will actually hit more than one if they're coming in a line, because it will stay there for a minute. So I'm just trying to target a Grease spot that will hit at least one, hopefully two or three. And since they're charging, I'm hoping that they will just end up flailing and flopping and rolling off.
Well done.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Let me.
So I think technically it's a dexterity save to not fall prone. But if they're charging, maybe a disadvantage to that wouldn't hurt my feelings. But with all my spells, they manifest through this sort of mornish light. So like there'll be almost like a light within my body that starts to glow brighter, and then and it almost like teleport. Then the light will be outside, and then it'll lay down on the ground in a grease spell.
Perfect. I did roll with disadvantage on that because I agree with you. There's too much going on for them to effectively avoid a big puddle of grease. And I got an 18 and a 2. So again,
okay.
The 2. We'll take that. That is going to be a fail. Let's think of the best way here. So let's say. So basically, what happens is you hold your moment to kind of conjure that grease until you see them start to group up a bit, and they two of them are kind of immediately caught in the initial splash, and you can see their beasts just moving at this speed, being pushed this hard, have no chance to kind of navigate this. So they fall and take their riders with them, just like a harsh wipeout. And a third one is about to ride through that area, and he attempts to kind of spur his mount to jump, and it just doesn't happen for him either. So he jumps, but he slips and jumps at the same time, and ends up just wiping out horribly as well. You could see that it's just like that one starts to tumble, bugbear over warg, kicking up a whole bunch of dirt.
And a ghost will say, "Nice trip. See you next fall."
The horde is going to use one of its reactions, though. So at this moment, since you have kind of leaned out the window a bit to conjure that, a javelin does come flying at you.
Everyone's a critic.
Does a 13 hit?
Yes, it does.
Oh,
It hits.
wow. So this is a javelin from the back, just kind of like a high arc, just seeing you, maybe even like a disadvantage. It actually was a disadvantage. But it nonetheless strike. Oh, actually, wait, you're looking at the window, so your AC, you have a little bit of cover. So what
Okay.
a
So
your AC
13 is my armor class.
Okay,
rather
so
than
it
armor.
is a miss. It does hit the window like right underneath where you are, though. Basically, the glass kind of like spider webs and cracks a bit. I'm assuming you like had to lower the partition or whatever. So good to know. Yeah, so just so you know, if you are like using these windows and whatnot, you get like cover. Like you get +2 to your armor class.
Okay.
If you go to like the passenger car, those windows are more designed for privacy, so it's a little more akin to like an arrow slit situation. You'd get 3/4 cover.
Okay.
But as it is, just a miss. Did you have any other bonus action or move action?
No, I'll just stay where I'm at. Just since I've done this, I will move to the opposite side to see if there's maybe I have a target for the same spell next turn
Sure.
on another group. So I'll move from one side to the other.
You look down at the javelin, you look back up, and then you just
Yeah.
scoot over to the other side of the car. Sounds perfect. Right before Talion goes is when the Horde actually gets to act. So as a bonus action, the Horde loses a little bit of its hit points. This is called a boarding party action. So let me do some math here. A bugbear is able to kind of spur his warg closer, and seeing that a lot of the resistance is coming from your guys' car, he hops out between the passenger car A and or he hops in between B and the sitting car, so he's kind of coming from your guys' south, basically. But he does walk into the car, which would trigger your ready to action, Gideon.
Lovely. As I'm getting bombarded by cat.
Yeah, you can see.
That is unfortunately only an 11.
11 to hit against a bugbear. So this creature has become a solitary entity. So there is one bugbear in the car with you guys presently. And its armor class is just a little bit higher than 11. So unfortunately that would be a miss. You can see that it has... it draws out its like Morning Star. And it doesn't have the shield. Seems like maybe the mounted units, or maybe this one in particular, just didn't carry one. But his hide armor, unfortunately, he twists out of the way, and his hide takes the brunt. So that was the bonus action, and then that bugbear is going to swing back at you, though, Gideon, with a natural 1. These starter set dice are not very... This is from the Essentials kit. I need to roll these whenever I don't want to hurt you guys. But then the Horde is going to use its action, and there's some javelins being tossed. So we're going to go with one at a ghost. From the other side of the car, even, there's enough over there that javelin flies your way. Because of your cover, it is going to miss. This one actually probably goes wider than the car itself. Then one's going to sling at Azure. Azure does a 15 hit if you have cover.
Sure does. I do not cover from inside the car.
All right.
Even then, it's only +2.
You take 4 points of piercing damage as one of the javelins bursts through the window near you and lodges. And...
Jerks.
That's it. And then, yeah, that's it. Another javelin does fling towards one of the other cars. You don't know. It's difficult to say. I mean, there are javelins flying everywhere, but it's hard to say if they're throwing at anybody else or just throwing at the car in general, or the train in general. After the Horde goes Ghost.
No, Talion.
That's what I meant. Talion.
He just didn't want me to go, period. I
No.
understand.
Yeah. He wishes he was a ghost. Well, no, actually, that would no, probably not.
So Talion was not really thinking that we were going to be fighting, so he left his crossbow back in car, and he just has a couple of daggers. But
That makes sense.
considering that he's not really prepared for any of this, what he's going to do is he sees that there's this bugbear that now appears to be focused on Gideon, and so he's close enough to lay hands on Gideon and cast Enhance Ability, which is going to give Gideon 9 temporary hit points. And then at the same time, he noticed that that Azure got hit, and he's going to kind of yell back in her direction, "You've got this! They're on their heels!" Which is going to be a bardic inspiration, so she'll have an extra inspiration d6 to use.
All right.
All right, perfect then.
Well, you're about to spend it.
Well, that's true.
I think
Yeah.
yeah. Don't write it down. You're
No.
just smoke it while you got
Yep.
it.
Okay. That was
Uh,
next six to what again? Sorry.
AD20 roll.
8. Okay. Cool.
yeah, he's the kind of bard where it's just attacks and saves and such, I think. Or yeah. Perfect. So with your bolstering words, you can see that Menace, the Warforged, kind of like looks over at you and like doesn't see you running, just sees you kind of talking in the middle of a combat. But he just he looks at you, he just kind of shrugs, and you can see that he aims his crossbow out and starts taking pot shots at some of the. Yeah, and you can see that Monty is the same. He's actually he's, for those of you of the arcane persuasion, it looks like his wand is throwing out magic missile. So they're also taking some shots at the oncoming horde.
Cool.
So to that end, let's see how successful they are real quick. Okay. So you can see that between all of this, you could see one of the wargs throws a rider. You can see that some of the rest of the horde is kind of all pressing in. The majority of them kind of spreading out over the length of the car. So it looks like, for the first several cars of this, there are attackers on either side at the moment. They did take a little bit more damage. So let me do math here. Got a calculator. Not that they have a ton of hit points, wink, wink, but they do have enough that I need a calculator. All right. And that actually brings us to the end of round 1. So like I said, with the pace that these guys are keeping, you imagine they cannot sustain this for very long. You don't know if they have like a larger plan, but it looks like you might take on more borders here, especially if you don't start clearing them out as they come. That brings us back around to the top of the order with Azure.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a weird question. So we have a grease smear on the field, right?
I mean, you're moving so fast that that's probably already in the rear view, unfortunately. I mean, yeah, this is,
I was thinking I have firebolt, there's a big pile of grease. But that makes sense. We're on the train. We're going really fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Change of plans. So we have you said it's a bugbear inside the car?
Yeah, correct. There's one bugbear, and Gideon's kind of blocking him at the door.
Okay. The bugbear?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. In that case, I will continue to aim out the window there, and I'm going to use witch bolt.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
All right. So for that one, let's see.
You don't.
I don't
They
even
roll.
Yeah, they have to roll.
Wait, no, sorry. You roll an attack.
Yeah.
But because I have to actually hit them.
Yep.
All right.
This is where that. What do you call it?
I think I'm gonna do.
D6 comes in.
I'm also gonna do it as a twin spell, so I'm going to have it target 2 people at once here, or 2 bugbears, or what have you.
What was that one?
Oh, great. 13 total.
Okay. Did you use your bardic inspiration die?
It did, yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
It got me
So-
an 8 total.
Yeah. Fortunately, that is actually the Horde's AC, so that is a hit.
Hey!
Perfect. I mean, yeah, there's enough moving around out there that you could throw a bolt, and some of them are going to just kind of end up riding into it, so you're at a bit of an advantage there.
Awesome. Alright.
So that is, what, 2d12 lightning damage?
1d12. Well, yeah,
You twinned
1d12
it.
per.
Yeah.
I did 2 individuals though.
Yeah, but yeah, so you're hitting 2 of them, but just go ahead. You could just roll 2d12 and give me the total.
One of them only got 3, the other got 6.
Okay.
And
And you're able to sustain that. So I'll say that doesn't kill either of these 2 riders. You can see that, like, but the bolts, even at this speed, like, through arcane might, they adjust to match your guys' like frame of speed or whatever. So you can maintain that if you'd like, and deal damage to the Horde again on your next turn.
Awesome.
At that point, you might burn through these riders, but
Yeah.
if nothing else, you're taking care of those guys. Seeing another display of arcane might, though, this Horde is going to use its reaction. This is another just javelin toss. Does a so for 13 does a 14 hit?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh no. Oh,
I'm
no.
ready.
Yeah, you are.
Well,
Someone
fortunately,
didn't have major armor either.
I didn't think to cast mage armor. I was
this
in a box.
is
I thought I'd be safe.
this is only 3 points of damage, but I do need you to make a concentration check just to make
Ah,
sure.
okay. So, it wasn't just a.
It's your constitution.
1d20 plus your con.
Oh, I lost it. I only rolled a 5.
Oh, no,
Or 2
that's
5.
the worst.
Oh,
Yeah, so you can see one of these riders kind of comes up alongside the guy that your bolt is pinning to the saddle, and he like looks at you, pulls a javelin from the quiver on the side of his mount, and just hucks it at you. So you do lose your concentration a bit.
oh, I'll start collecting javelins.
Oh, no, I need
Ow.
something to throw.
Oh,
Handback's not good range.
no.
And so, did you want to do anything else with your bonus or your move? Are you good where you are?
Actually, I'm going to pull out my tempestuous magic, and I can bamf myself 10 feet, so I'm not sitting in the same spot each time. So,
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
bamf
So
myself 10 feet over.
just out of curiosity, do you think you're so you're in the sitting car? Are you moving towards your passenger car or towards the passenger car behind you? Just out of curiosity.
Probably closer towards ours.
Okay, sounds good. After Azure goes Gideon.
Alrighty. We are going to open up with a fainting attack.
Oh, my stars!
Yeah. My stars and garters.
I do declare.
Um, 10.
We're winning.
That is a little shy, unfortunately.
Yep. Let's smoke the action surge, and I am just going to straight up shove and try to throw this guy off the train.
Okay, perfect.
It's strength versus strength.
All right, sounds good.
Throw bugbear from the train.
Yeah. A 1. I got a 1. You
I
got.
got 8.
Well, you got better than a 1. I'm
Okay.
telling you, these essential set dice are weighted.
Cool.
So yeah, you do. You take a fainting attack at this guy, and you can just see that he bats it aside. Maybe in that moment of frustration, you just kind of grab him by like the collar of his hide armor, and you just like no ticket. Just shove him through the door behind. He loses his balance in between the cars and falls.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, even his companions are at least falling into the dirt. He's probably under the train at the moment, so it's not wheeled, but it does have a lot of lightning down there.
I've got some movement left, and I'm gonna go over and grab the 2 javelins, still bloody with dragonhide, and
Perfect.
that way I have a ranged option handy.
Yeah, I'd say you can gather those up pretty easily.
If I can get back to where I was at the Overwatch earlier, I'll go there. If not, I'll try to get as close as possible.
Yeah, you're pretty close to that southern end of the train at the end of that. Sounds good. And next we come to a ghost.
Smells like burnt dog. So how did the bugbear actually board the train? I'm thinking like Wild West, like he rode up next to it and then like grabbed a hold of something and then swung on. Are there any bugbear that are in the process of doing that right now? Like anyone else about to board the train?
Yeah. On the Horde's turn, yeah, certainly it seems like you can see that there are some that are kind of encroaching a little bit closer. You can also hear that like a chorus of yips and bellows is kind of picking up too. So they're all just kind of shouting to one another.
All right. So because what I'm trying to do here is I want to, I guess, wait until one's about to jump onto the train and then cast grease right then, so that whatever they either try to grab onto or land on is slippery and try to keep them from boarding. Because I don't like they're trying to do it at like a specific place, like between 2 cars, then I can just cast it there and it'll be there for the rest of the turn. Or if they're doing it in other places, I want to strategically place the grease if I can, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so looking out the windows, like I said, they're along the length of these several cars, so it's possible you think they could board in your passenger car, they could board here, they could board in the passenger car behind you. But I would say, just you can ready an action for that, kind of keeping in the equator of the car and just looking out the windows, waiting to see, and then you would just probably run forward and do it at that moment. That makes sense. Okay,
so that's what I'm doing then. I'm playing free safety. Wherever the ball goes, that's what I'm going to run to. And then cast grease.
Sure, perfect. So that brings us, the Horde actually acts next. So the Horde is going to, so you could see that one of the warg riders kind of spurs his mount and he is riding up to the junction just ahead of you. So you probably weave through the group of people moving back and forth and taking their attacks. And so let's see here how this goes. A 2.
Okay.
Perfect. So you can see this guy, he spurs his mount. You get right up to the door so that you can see out, and right at the moment that he's about to kind of hop onto the junction between the cars, you fling the door open and throw the grease down, and he just immediately loses his footing. Yeah. So I would say though, I'd say you're making this area greasy more so than it was just not just the railing. It's kind of this whole
It's a 10-foot square.
Yeah.
However that would, yeah.
Okay, so it could be a little dicey to move between these 2 cars but it won't last forever. It's arcane in nature.
Yep.
So I'll say instead of spawning a bugbear, basically I'm just going to take that bugbear's life off of the Horde. So that will hurt it a little bit. And okay. The remainder of the Horde, seeing all this happen, you can see that some of them are riding up, and because of the worg-back, they're kind of level. The windows in the sitting car and the dining car are a little bit more to show the surrounding countryside and stuff, so that's why they're only giving you a little bit of cover. But seeing Gideon as a martial threat, 2 of the javelins are going to get flung in his direction. AC 18 and 16.
18's on the nose.
Take 5 points of piercing damage as one of the javelins smashes through the window and lances into you. And then let's see how they're going to target the others. Well, the last one's going to fly at a ghost. Does a 15 hit?
Yep. 13, and then with the +2 for cover, I still get it.
Okay. So take 4 points of piercing damage.
I probably don't have that cover, do I?
I would say, I mean, you probably threw that guy and then took a step back into the doorway at least. You're probably not standing in the middle of that junction at the moment.
If I had cover, I'm at 20.
Oh. Well, then, okay, yeah, then it didn't hit. Let's just say. Yeah. You guys are making good use of the environment, I would say. And then you guys can kind of hear like all of these battle cries and bellows are kind of picking up in intensity here. Then goes Talion.
Nobody's looking like hurt really bad, are they? Does anybody need anything?
Yeah, I got like,
You're pretty beaten up.
yeah, I'm almost down to half my hit point.
Oh, okay. Then let me go ahead and we're gonna just kind of scamper over to you and cast Cure Wounds and give you 6 hit points back. 6 hit points back.
All but one. Yay! Thank you.
You really are squishy.
I am very squishy. Oh, my next
And
action will be-
that's all I'm going to do right now. I'm going to save this bonus action for maybe later if we really need it.
Sounds about fair. All right. You can see that Monty raises his wand and shoots out a few more magic missiles, doing a little bit of damage to the horde. And then you see, as if like some sort of like rapid fire, and like as if his arm was a repeating crossbow, the kind of thing you've only heard about from in the artificer circles. Several rounds, several bolts dislodge from Menace at that moment and lance into a bunch of them, just suppressing fire style. You could hear the yelps of wargs that are hitting their flanks, and you could see a couple. You could see one of the riders gets unseated, but there's still just carrying on all of this cacophony of noise. The steward with the crossbow is also taking shots at some of them, but you can see that he's more concerned with cover, maybe even like disadvantaging himself, just kind of firing blindly. And you don't hear any other sounds of like screams or anything from any of the adjacent cars, so you think there hasn't been any other boarding action in these past few moments. But we're going to come back around to the top of the order again. Azure.
Well, yeah, I'm really squishy. I am casting Mage Armor on myself.
Cool.
Yes. I'm grabbing somewhat of an AC.
Actually, also, at the beginning of your turn, all of these battle cries overlapping and everything at this moment, I need you to actually make a wisdom saving throw for me.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. For those of you listening, not good.
Not good.
You are frightened. Like the overlapping sounds of all of their, like I said, yops and yips and bellows has just kind of become too much. You can actually, well, how does that normally? So you can attempt a saving throw at the end of your turn, I guess, to shake the frightened condition. So since you're not doing anything other than casting this spell, go ahead and make your saving throw to see if you shake it off already.
It's a different die. This is going to be timeout. Yeah. No, that's 5.
No,
Total.
still low.
Hey, it's better. You're getting there. Yeah.
I will say, though, I mean, since you are frightened, you probably aren't really exposing yourself to attack, so you're probably getting total cover, just kind of sinking down in the booth a bit and casting mage armor on yourself. So you're probably free from reprisal at the moment.
Not
Giddy?
from the ensuing push-ups.
Yeah. Gideon, go ahead and make that wisdom saving throw for me. It's at the beginning of your turn now.
Yep. 6.
So many push-ups all around. So Gideon, I hate to tell you this, you are frightened of the horde at this particular moment. So really, I mean, it's really just going to be the disadvantage on attack rolls that's probably the most pertinent to you. I wouldn't say that moving is really hindered since you're not moving towards them.
I'm probably gonna still take up and just ready an action.
Okay.
Ready a melee attack.
Okay. Well, actually, then, so if it's the end of your turn, you can try and save against the frightened.
I will do so with a 14.
14 is enough. That's perfect.
All right.
So, yeah, you probably take that moment to just kind of steel yourself, raise up your shield, and settle in. Take a deep breath. You're ready. You're ready for the oncoming.
Yell at the very scaly coward who's underneath the table.
Yeah. A ghost.
All right, do I have to make a saving throw as well?
Correct. Wisdom save.
All right. I rolled a 5, which for me is a 4, because I have negative wisdom.
Wow.
So you are frightened at this moment, so whatever you do this round will probably have disadvantage, but let's see. What were you thinking?
That's a good question. So I was actually thinking, again, are there any of the wargs that are in line? Like if I could target the first one, it could potentially pin back and affect more behind them?
Go ahead and make a perception check for me, just to kind of assess the situation.
All right, I rolled a 1, which for me is a 0.
I mean, you're so frightened that, you look back and forth between the windows and you're like, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Everywhere's a line of them. You just think you're surrounded.
All right. Well, so I guess what I was planning on doing was going to use Ray of Frost, which, in addition to damage, causes their movement to slow. I was hoping like one would slow and then would get hit by the one behind them.
Yeah.
So would that, because I do make a ranged spell attack, so would I do that at disadvantage?
Correct, yeah, because you're frightened.
Okay. 2.
So yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I get like confused. There's so many that I can't really target one. So all I end up doing is causing the window in front of me to sort of like frost up.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was thinking. Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, you go to fire and you realize that window hadn't been opened yet. So yeah, it's just a nice frosty coat of ice on there.
All right, and then I got an 11 for my end of turn saving throw to try to resist.
You are still frightened at this moment, unfortunately.
I have a negative wisdom. This is going to be hard for me.
Oh no, not a great.
I have the highest wisdom here in the group. This is not good.
Well, no. That brings us to the Horde. Gideon, you're going to get an attack. You can see, looking forward, Ghost, you can see they ride up and they see the grease on that junction between your two cars. And so, like, they just kind of fall back. And the one that falls back actually ends up boarding back behind the grease spot. Just thinking that's less precarious. So one of them does enter into your guys' car.
Okay.
Gideon, you can take your readied action.
16.
Oh, that's a hit. Yeah, definitely.
For 6 damage with a warhammer.
Okay. So you do manage to strike this guy pretty squarely. It's a solid enough hit. He's going to actually take a swing back at you with his scimitar. He just drawn out a 1. I can't even make this up. Like I should get a dice cam. I'm going to switch to a different D20. So he swings back at you, but just absolutely biffs it. You can see that the scimitar gets caught in some of like the decorative like wood awning basically around the back of the train or whatever. And he swears and glares at you. And then a bevy of javelins is going to come a-flying. This one, let's see here. One of them flies at Menace and misses. One of them does actually hit Monty. So you can see that he takes a little bit of damage. It just kind of glances off of him. It gets through the window at an odd angle and just kind of juts up and ends up poking him. He only took like 2 damage. But then the last one is going to come for, let's just say one of you at random. Talion. You've just been standing, maybe shouting a little bit. I mean, you've mostly been keeping your head down, so you probably have at least 3/4 cover. But yeah. I did just get an AC 20 attack, so
that'll hit.
They just see, like, they see your head kind of bobbing up over the rim of the window, and somebody just chucks a javelin. Go ahead and take 5 points of piercing damage. Basically, like I said, you're maybe just like standing to peer up at that moment, and it just it comes through the windowsill. The windowsill takes the brunt of it, takes a little bit of the edge off, but yeah, it sticks you in the shoulder for 5 piercing, and that is the end of the Horde's turn. You can also see that, like, the one that boarded, like, he had to fade away a little bit. The majority of them are kind of starting to fade away a bit here. So none of them are really, like, ahead of you guys. None of them are like parallel to, like, the helm car or even your guys' passenger car. And so they're starting to trail you guys already. It's only been, like 10 or 15 seconds, but they can't keep this pace for very long. Go ahead, Talion.
All right. I guess, do I need to make a wisdom saving throw too?
Oh, yeah. Against the battle cries. Go for it.
Yeah, that's a 4. So I guess I'm scared as well.
Each one of you was scared, but just Gideon just like shook it off and played it off, I guess. Well, that might shape what you want to do with your turn, Talion, but what do you want to do?
There's so little I can do effectively right now.
Oh, you know what, though? You could have triggered your magic item. You were hit. This is the first time I think you've been hit this campaign.
I didn't think I was going to need it. I don't have.
Oh, so you've left it in the car. Okay.
All I've got is
I've
got is a dagger.
That's good role. That's good role playing. I'm proud of you. I didn't know if it was like your walking stick, if you took it everywhere, or no. Okay, never mind.
No, it's unfortunate. Yes, I like the way you think, but no.
Good role playing. Good role playing. You're a better role player than I am. Go for it then.
I'm frightened, so I am going to kind of look at everybody, and looking at everybody, I am going to feel most comfortable closest to Gideon, so I'm going to scamper close to Gideon because he's the biggest, bravest guy there at the moment. And as I guess there's probably there's a bugbear that's within striking distance of him, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, there is still one.
Yeah, I'll just take a little swipe with my dagger.
I'll actually say, since he is not a part of the Horde at this moment, so I won't give you disadvantage on an attack against him, let's say.
Okay. Don't worry, it didn't work anyway. So that's a 5. A nat 1 plus 4 to hit. So yes.
I mean,
I sucked all the dice luck out of the entire party at one initiative roll.
You think that you're going to feel better standing next to Gideon? You sidle up next to Gideon, you pull your dagger, and then the bugbear just like glares at you, and you just kind of like swallow hard. Maybe put the dagger away, rethink it. Go ahead and make a save at the end of your turn to see if you can shake that frightened, though.
All right. 5, so that's a no.
You are still frightened. At this point, coming back around to the top of the order, as I said, they are starting to fade. Looking around, you can see, there are some wargs that are completely pulling back at this moment because they've lost riders. Monty conjures up another barrage of magic missiles, and Menace fires a couple more arrows. You think that if you can endure for maybe just a few moments longer, that you're going to outpace them completely. That the one that has boarded might still be an issue at that point, but we're coming back to the top of the order. That makes it Azure's turn.
You're,
All right.
you're
I'm
still
still
scared.
frightened, so I have to try to roll out of this.
That's actually at the end of your turn, though. Unfortunately,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Actually, do like frightened.
It's your disadvantage on
Okay.
basically.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to bypass that is spells that require saving throws. So if you have anything that, because they're not at an advantage against it,
Well,
or just rolling high twice. That's the other way
Yeah.
around.
That's harder.
all right. I'm calling my big spell actually. Who's Dragon's Breath?
Oh, that requires dex save, not an attack. So
Exactly.
That's good for you.
So I will use Dragon's Breath to try to light up anyone else who is outside the train. Or actually, we still have someone
I
inside
got,
the train.
don't worry about that. Don't light
Okay.
the train on fire.
Yeah, you could
Don't
do
let-
that. You do have Gideon
Like
between you
things
and
on
that one. But yeah, if you want to use it on the horde, I think that's a
Yeah.
legitimate
That's
use.
a dex save for half.
They made a 10 on the dex save, so that is not half.
That is a no. That's
And-
13 dex save there. All right. So they get 3d6 in the face. Oh, 7 on 3d6. Decidedly.
And you can keep doing that.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to use Empowered Spell to be able to re-roll one of those at a 4, 3, and a 1.
Okay,
I'm going to re-roll that 1 and see if I can get a better number.
sure.
That's much better. That's 10 then total. Instead of 7.
So you take a deep breath to try and to calm yourself, and you just feel your lungs fill with the crackling power of lightning, which might actually, let's say, I'm going to say you have advantage on this saving throw against fear at the end of your turn here, because when you lance out, you unseat a couple of riders. One of the wargs it actually collapses underneath one of them. You guys have really thinned the herd down to maybe, I mean, it was maybe like 6 dozen. It's probably getting close to like 3 dozen riders around you.
Yeah,
So.
that's good. That's good. Thing I did because my disadvantage was a 7. Okay, it is now a 14.
That is just enough. Very good.
Yay!
You
good,
shake off
okay.
the fear. And yep. Did you want to do anything with your bonus action or your movement?
That use your bonus action.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah.
actually cast the spell bonus action.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Well, if you're good where you are,
Right
then
up here. Yep.
it's Gideon's turn. Gideon, you still have this one in
Okay.
front of you. You can see his eyes dart back and forth. He sees that his clan is kind of falling behind, so he might be rethinking his.
Yeah. We're gonna. We're gonna use menacing attack here. Can I get? Because I are scary by myself. That is a 14.
That is a hit.
All right. That'll do. Okay. That'll be 15 damage with the Warhammer.
Whoa.
Nice crushing blow. If he survived that, he needs to make a wisdom save or be scared of me.
No. Yeah, he did survive, but he is scared. You can see that takes almost all the wind out of him.
Okay.
You crack him like solidly in the center of the chest, and he like buckles almost to like one knee for a moment.
Okay.
He
Well, that's good, because as a bonus action, I'm going to shove him off the train.
okay.
Again, strength versus strength. That'll be much better. 19.
You beat his 7.
All right.
So yeah, you take that moment as he kind of buckled under your blow to get your hands on him, and you do throw another bugbear from the train.
Okay.
You can see that a couple of the warriors nearby, seeing you do this, do kind of start to like slowly drift back, but they are glaring at you. There's like 3 on either side of this little junction at the moment, and they're just slowly dipping back. After Gideon goes a ghost.
So a ghost has read books about the battle cry of the bugbear warriors, I'm sure, but this is the first time experiencing it, and I'm kind of shaken by it. So I'm kind of huddled down, but I see Gideon fighting, and Gideon's my hero, and I'm like, I gotta help, but I don't want to like put myself in danger, so I'm just gonna like pop up just enough to cast sleep out again amongst the horde of wargs and try to get at least a couple, maybe to fall asleep, and again that'll cause them to roll and flip and flop. So this shouldn't have any effect on the thing because I just roll dice. I don't have to make an attack roll. And I'm going to cast it as a second level spell, so it'll be 7d8 worse, not 78, 7d8 of hit points.
Yeah, quite a bit.
But I rolled a couple ones there, so so that's 16, 18, 20, 29. I don't know, maybe I got one of them. So 29 hit points worth of creatures in ascending order will fall asleep as they are charging full tilt towards a train.
You make it sound like that's not a good idea. So here's the thing: the wargs actually have slightly less hit points than the bugbear. So the most optimal situation is that one of the wargs goes to sleep mid-run,
yes,
as if narcoleptic. Yeah, so that one just totally spatters out. What was your total? It was
29, I think.
Okay.
Wow. No, it was wargs and bugbears put to sleep. Like hit points worth.
Yeah.
Come on, come in.
So
yes,
the warg falls asleep. Its rider is immediately yanked down with it, and they interfere in the path of a couple others, funneling in behind them.
Yes.
So you pinball one into multi-warg pile up, basically, at this moment, happening beside the car. The horde is reduced right now to like half of its total hit points, so you can see that it is, like, with all the constituents you've removed at this point, there is definitely a lot less of a frightening presence. The battle cry has kind of come to an end, so I'll say anybody who is still frightened at this moment, you cease to be frightened, as kind of the chorus of voices is no longer a constant patter. Did you have anything else you wanted to do? Bonus or move?
Well, as the fear subsides, I will kind of stand to my full height, which again is short. I'm not very tall, and I will flourish my cape, and I will look indignant at everyone around me because I was frightened, and it makes me embarrassed that I was frightened.
Perfect. All right. You can see, so the horde is breaking at this moment. The either side of it is just kind of peeling away and heading back towards the ridges. Some of them are kind of pulling up the reins to maybe fall back and help some of the injured companions. But they are going to take some last javelin tosses. Gideon, 2 javelins in your direction. 11 misses, but 20... Does a 20 hit with your cover?
Even with the cover, yeah.
Take 6 points of piercing damage as one of the javelins hits you. And then the other 3 possible targets, we'll do 1, 2. This one, again, is actually coming for you, a ghost. You kind of stood up and flourished your cape, maybe drew a little attention to yourself. This one only got a total of an 11, though, so it probably pings off of the side of the car. And you just you see that warrior just like swear. You can't really hear it, but they are all kind of melting away at this point. Talion, you could still definitely do something if you'd like, but for the most part, I mean, Monty is still throwing magic missiles. It looks like he's got maybe a couple more left in that wand, but it looks like they're largely dispersing. Did you have anything else you wanted to try and get in on them?
Nope. If anybody looks like they actually need some healing, holler at me.
Yeah. Monty looks okay. He looks like he's got, he's not a commoner. He's a little bit more hit points than that.
All right, we're good then.
So in that moment of after that, those few moments of excitement, like I said, the horde can no longer kind of keep pace, and you guys have done a substantial amount of damage to them. So they begin to kind of scatter off. You can see that further down from some of the train cars behind you. There's like more bustle as kind of stewards run back and forth, maybe getting damage control and things like that. It becomes apparent that like nobody else in the other cars was particularly hurt, and it doesn't seem like when the horde kind of matched speed with the train, they didn't get fast enough to kind of get to the helm car or anything like that. So you could see, fortunately, it looks like they focused on you guys as the noisemakers in the group, but. You can see like the stewards are running back and forth, just make sure nobody needs medical attention. The husband of that like Sharn refugee family kind of comes out after a while, and he kind of like looks around. He like looks over all of you guys in the car. I'm assuming you're just taking a moment. Monty kind of goes about like mending some of the cracks in the windows and such, and kind of trying to restore all of that. But the man looks over a lot of you and says, "Is it safe?"
Stay in your car. We'll be back briefly. And I look around, and again, full drill sergeant, mode here.
All right, you can see he nods.
Start at the engine. Work from there. Work our way backwards. Make sure that there are none in hiding.
Okay. Yeah, the stewards actually also kind of take to that command. That man returns to his family and seals himself back up in his passenger car. But sweeping through the train, you quickly determine it doesn't seem like there's any stowaways. It seems like the majority of the passengers that you encountered in the sitting car are either in their cabins or otherwise. You work your way back, kind of with the steward's blessing, through first class, through the galley cart, so you can see the kitchens and stuff where the crew is kind of preparing for dinner in a couple of hours. One of the cargo cars near the end, you might have seen this from the platform, is actually like a canvas top, like open air. There's like a walkway between like two troughs on either side. Those troughs are currently empty. And then the other cargo car is locked. One of the stewards is kind of tagging along with you since you are kind of moving through some secure areas. And you can like peer through the porthole on that door. But he tells you that as a matter of insurance, the trading costers and such, they keep their cargo under lock and key. One of the captains may have it, or one of the chief stewards, but I doubt that the bugbears got in there. So that's kind of the end of your investigative.
I'll take him at his word, and at that point, we'll probably relax a little more.
Can I flag down one of the stewards as they're kind of hurrying around checking everything?
Yeah, definitely.
Ask them, does this happen often?
This one tells you that he has he's worked this line for 2 years now, and he's never seen this.
Okay.
I mean, it's unheard of usually that any Orient lightning rail is attacked, typically because of the rail's speed and because of the power of House Orion. I don't know who these lot were, but
So Talion's going to hear that, and he's going to jump on it. He's going to start kind of being total Karen, and this is absurd, and you should give us back a percentage of our ticket price. This is not what we paid for, and so I'm trying to persuade him to give us some money back from our costs.
We'll accept House Orion credit. Free rail travel.
Yeah.
Make a persuasion check for me, Talion.
Let's see here. Clearly, I'm still a little shaken because I only rolled a 7. So That's a 1+6 for the record.
Well, because of your college, isn't it always a 9 minimum?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe it's 9 or 10. Let me see. Double check.
Yeah, I think it's so. I'm thinking you're more at the 15 mark, which is a little bit better. So maybe like when you start to speak, your voice cracks a little bit, but you clear your throat and and double down.
That's how frightened he is.
Yeah.
Your voice cracks.
Yeah, he says, I'll take this to the chief stewards. Perhaps one of the captains will speak to you. Apologies to the lot of you. He kind of like looks around. Monty is just kind of like shrugs it off. Menace is like holding up a pane of glass while Monty does like mending on it. But yeah, they'll get back to you on that. He's not authorized to to cut you.
I want to
we
talk to your manager.
We want to speak to a manager.
He does actually at this point though. I would say like he pulls out the equivalent of like drink vouchers though, and offers them up to everyone. He gives everybody like 2 drink vouchers. Menace obviously just kind of like looks at him and shakes his head. But a ghost, are you gonna take some drink vouchers? Or?
Oh, no, he's too young. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Alien's going to slip in whenever Menace shakes his head and say, I'll take his.
Yeah. All right, you guys.
So Ghost is struck by a sudden thought. There's no way to tell that because he's a featureless robot. And I'm going to rush off to our car and check on it to make sure no one has taken the opportunity to go inside while we were busy.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and give me an investigation check.
10 plus 5, 15.
Everything looks to be in the same order it was when you left. So, no, doesn't seem like anybody had rifled through. Still, though, not a bad hunch.
It was something from the book I just read, the mystery where the butler did it. There was a moment where someone took an opportune time to do something shady, so I just, struck me.
Perfect. Well, as this all settles down, you could see Monty kind of stalks off towards the back, towards his passenger cabin. Menace just kind of stays seated, just kind of staring out the window. And the elderly halfling woman does return a short while later. You guys are able to take like a short rest here. But I mean, going into this dinner time and this potential card tournament or whatever, you don't expect any other trouble. But you could always complete a short rest. A short while later, like a few minutes later, I would say, as everybody's kind of settling back into the seating booth, with the windows being mended, it's not like unbearable in here or anything. It's a human woman with the same kind of uniform of House Orion. I think their colors are like purple and green, basically. But she actually does have the dragon mark on her face. She enters coming from the helm car in that forward direction. And she speaks up to everyone who's still kind of here. She says, I hear that several of you participated in the defense of this vessel, and I want to commend you on behalf of House Orion for doing so. I am one of your co-captains, Nebra de Orion, and I assure you I have never seen or heard of anything like this befalling another line. I don't expect any further trouble, but of course, if you would make yourselves useful in that way again, it would be greatly appreciated. Perhaps when we reach the next stop, I will I'll make use of the civis services to contact my house and determine if there's any reward or what to do in these situations. I'm not much for reading the handbook on chapters like this.
Should certainly hope so.
Yes, of course, Mr. Dildavandi. And she kind of approaches you as she's speaking this. She says, I hear that you are unhappy with these accommodations, and I assure you that I am as well. I do not know why this tribe of bugbears would choose to attack our conveyance, but I assure you, when we make inquiries at Zollenport, we can perhaps procure additional security, and we can perhaps procure some sort of recompense for you and your party. And she kind of like looks and sees, I'm assuming you guys are maybe not all in the same booth, but nearby. So she kind of casts a glance over the lot of you. Take the sincerest apologies of House Orion. I've been told you've been given drink vouchers.
I'm actually going to raise a drink because somewhere in all this I managed to grab one.
Yeah.
I actually say I happen to have lost mine, and then see if I can get some more.
Okay. Make a deception check.
Oh, I threw my dice over there. Hold on. Oh. 2.
Okay. I mean, you're already a Warforged, so she knows that. She's just kind of like, and she goes, quite. Well, your
Warforged pouts somehow.
Your accommodations, of course, already included a meal service for this evening. There is some slight differences between the first class meals and the standard fare. I will see to it that you receive first class meals and another round of drinks with dinner. And she says, "I trust that will be enough for now. And if there's any other discussions to be had, we'll have them upon safe arrival at your destination. Where are you all departing this train?" You guys know that it makes several stops. It stops in Zollenberg, Sterngate, Star Alaska, Rote, and Sharn. And you guys are riding it to the end, but I don't know if...
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't volunteer that information, she probably could check. But
no reason not to.
Yeah.
Okay. She nods and she says, "Well, I'll be along to the end of the line as well. So we'll discuss this." But
As if by magic, Talion raises his other hand and now has 2 drinks.
Perfect. She gives you a nod and she says, "As soon as I'm off duty, I'll be having one of those myself."
Yeah.
But she, uncontested, she'll kind of turn and take her leave of you all and head back towards the helm car. So like I said, you guys are able to complete a short rest. A short while later, the Sharn family does kind of reemerge from their chambers. It's a man, a woman, and 2 small children. So it seems like they need more room in the seating car to accommodate for their kids and stuff. So cautiously, they return to the car a short while later. That is about it. Unless there's anything in particular you guys want to accomplish, I'm assuming the majority of the excitement is happening during the dinner/card tournament. So, is there any other business to attend to before that?
Better is the first class meal than the standard meal.
Good question. It's probably substantially better. She was probably underselling it a bit. You guys are getting the prime cuts of meat, a side of vegetables, instead of the... you're getting soup and salad instead of just the soup. So yeah, it comes with basically like a whole extra course or so once you do the math. So it turns from okay dining to fine dining.
Never eat the cheese.
Why?
Trust.
Weird.
So a ghost will do that thing like they do in movies where I'm constantly like cutting my steak and taking my fork, but I never actually put anything in my mouth. But I'm just the whole meal I'm talking and just doing the thing like I'm acting like I'm eating.
Perfect. And Talion, I can't remember exactly if the discussion between you and Worfkar was that you would be... I don't think it was... Was it speaking over dinner or was it speaking during the card game?
It was actually, I think that I had implied to him that we would talk not this dinner, but the next. And then I think that he said, "Okay, I'll speak to you at dinner." So yes, it would be this dinner and not the next. So yes, he'll approach us, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Okay. So, the stewards have kind of announced as dinner service has kind of begun that you guys are only a couple hours outside of Zollenberg. You should reach Zollenberg by about 8 p.m. So dinner is like 6-ish, let's say. You guys are given there's like several tables basically in the dining car. The two on the side, like closest to the kitchen, kind of serve more so as the first class accommodations. So you are seated there. Quisbar is kind of at a table all to himself. You could see that, Worfkar is maybe intended to sit with him, but Worfkar kind of comes into the dining car a short while after the service begins, and he kind of gestures to the stewards to kind of like move his arrangement over to the lot of you. But then he actually would probably come to you, Talion, and he would say, is this a discussion to have in front of company? And he kind of like looks to the whole party.
Whatever you can say. I've had a little bit too much drink. If you can say it to me, you can say it in front of my friends. These are my friends.
Yes, I imagine so. So for those of you that don't remember Worfkar's description, Worfkar is a dwarven male. You can see that the right side of his face has been like scarred with acid, and underneath that scarification you can kind of see the faint remnants of a dragon mark. It also looks like whatever this incident was that caused this kind of like ruined his eye on that side. So he kind of has like the milky white cataract eye. But he's dressed very finely. His beard is like well oiled and kind of like tightly braided efficiently, let's say. But he, once the stewards kind of set him up, you guys are having your soup and salad at this point. They bring him fresh soup from the kitchen and fresh salad as well, and he takes a seat kind of towards the head of your guys' table. There's enough of a buffer between you guys and kind of the rest of the groups that he speaks somewhat softly just to make sure that he's not giving anything away for free. But he does go on to say to the lot of you that he has had discussions with the gnome and this dragon person. I don't know the term.
Dragonborn.
Dragonborn.
That's my friend you're talking about.
And he says, I read something interesting in the paper today, and he kind of reaches into the fold of like his traveling jacket and pulls out a copy of the Korranberg Chronicle, and he slaps it down on the table and pushes it towards Talion. Talion, you look down and it's page 22. But he says, I saw you all the other night at the exhibit. I tend to wear arcane cosmetics when I'm wanting to be a little bit more inconspicuous, but as I informed your two companions here, I was an associate of Verdin Toppe, and Verdin owed me a small sum of money, and I'm looking to recoup some of my losses. I've heard through channels that he will not be in any state to pay me back in the near future. So, before I go giving you anything for free, I would like to see some coin on the table, a sign of goodwill.
You're here to offer us a job, but want us to pay you for the job?
No, not a job so much as I'm just seeking recompense. I made a number of personal loans to Verdin, and since Verdin is in no capacity to pay them back, and he has no next of kin that I'm aware of, I come to you as associates of his, wondering if you'll settle his tab in exchange for information.
So Talion's gonna suddenly the drunken stupor is gonna just drop from his face, and he's gonna get the dagger that he still has on him. He's gonna slide over real quick, and he's gonna say, "Listen, you said 75, but I think that you ought to know that the only reason you're alive right now is because of us. So how about 25? Then I'm going to slide back to my room, to my seat, and sit down.
Make an intimidation check. And this, I don't think you're...
Well, let's just say that
it's a number.
it's a number that's very low.
Okay, sure.
Extremely, extremely low. Call it a 1.
So as you were like, you feel real cool about it, but as you're like sliding back and like sheathing your dagger up your sleeve or whatever, you cut yourself. So you're like, ah! you can't help but cringe a little bit when this happens, and you can see that Worfgar, he did take you seriously because you had that bearing for a moment, but you could see that he just kind of like, he relaxes a little bit when he realizes that you made a fool of yourself. He's like a little bit shocked, and then he just slowly progresses to like 25 gold pieces is a good place to start the story. If I see 25 gold pieces on the table presently, like I said, I'll start the story and I'll stop before it gets to the good part.
Since Talion's made a complete fool of himself at this point in time, he's just going to down whatever's left of his drink. And without thinking about the fact that nobody knows that he took this 120 gold pieces that were given to us to hold.
Yes.
He's going to get the whole pouch out. He's going to put 75 on the table. So now everybody knows that he had this pouch that we were supposed to be splitting between all of us. But we've paid now for this information.
Yeah.
A ghost is going to pull out 5 more and put on there and go, I'll give you this if you tell me what happened to your face.
Oh. Worfgar just kind of... Like,
I just pushed the gold back to a ghost.
What?
You
Look at his face. I mean, clearly there's a story there. Don't you want to know?
It's a 200-year-long war. It's a long story. Let's not bring it up.
No. So he would actually reach for you, Gideon, and he would say, now, gold's on the table. He would say, he kind of looks at you and he says, He thinks for a moment that maybe the way he might explain it to a child, perhaps, but he...
That's a good place to start with, Ghost.
He says, I used to be affiliated with House Kundrak, and some of my superiors thought that I put my own interests before that of the house, so they didn't want me representing them any longer. Yeah. And he kind of looks at Gideon and he says, see, this is a short enough story. But he reaches over and gets his claw on that 5 gold and starts dragging it towards him. But he looks at the rest of the money kind of laid out on the table and looks up at the lot of you and he says, well, as I've explained at length at this point, Verdin owed me quite a bit of coin. And the organization that we're a part of was unaware that I had made these personal loans and that he was past due on his payments. So I threatened, of course, to turn him over to the rest of our association, and they would have his rings for that. That being said, shortly after I threatened him, he disappeared. The two of us, we own operating shares in a team of porters in the city of Sharn. Also, we have a small space in a warehouse and one of the Duras, and we're just involved in several business interests for mutual gain. But he has become more of a loss than a gain for me at this point. When I realized that he had left out of town, I started making inquiries, and I had heard from friends of friends that he took off to Zalargo. Now, I don't know why he thought that would be a good place to go. I'm certain that the Zil government would extradite him if I brought charges before the court in Sharn. But nonetheless, I decided I'd look into it myself to see what he was up to. So I followed him. I found him one night in Korranberg several weeks ago. And I spoke with him. And he told me something that I was certain was just a lie. Deception to buy himself more time to carry out some harebrained scheme, hopefully in an attempt to get me my money back. But I let him run with it. And now I've heard that he has gone and gotten himself turned to stone. And I think he's mixed up in something a little bit bigger than 75 gold pieces of debt to a dwarf like me. So you can see he reaches out and kind of begins to scoop all that coin towards them. And he looks to you, Talion, and he says, I'm always one for a negotiation. I think that's just good business. You threatened me a bit with a dagger, but I'm willing to forgive that too. If 75 is too rich for your blood, what's your offer for the rest of the story?
So I put all 75 on the table, right? Yeah.
Oh, did you? I thought you. I missed
put it
that
all,
part.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
That's why it's so embarrassing that in front of everybody, because they think, oh, he doesn't have any money, and suddenly he's got $75 out of 75 gold points out of, yeah.
Okay, never mind.
But that's okay. I mean, yes, keep talking.
Well, he says, he goes on to tell you that so when I found Verdin a few weeks back, he told me that he came to Korranberg in light of a dream that he had. He said he dreamed that a beautiful elven Lady Luck told him where to find a valuable gem. He said that he would square his debts with me when he returned to Sharn. And like I said, I figured he's full of it. I've had plenty of dreams, but none of them have led me to any business venture worth having. But I hear tell that he gathered himself up some mercenaries, rode off to some archaeological site or another, and he must have found something. He's kind of like looking at you all, trying to get a read to see if you're gonna tip your hands or not. Just
I'm glaring daggers upon short swords Italian. What else did our payment justify us?
Italian's getting redder and redder. At first it might have been the alcohol, but as this information comes out that feels like yesterday's news, he's just getting more and more red.
And, unless I'm wrong, we knew almost all of this so far, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that would strike you as maybe new information is this part about the dream. I mean, you didn't know why he mounted that expedition, but he obviously went and returned.
To me in a dream.
And I forgot it in another dream. No. He would actually go on, he like reads you all for a moment, and he says, I was willing to return to Sharn and turn Verdin over to the law and to the higher-ups, the Silver Concordians of our group. But when I saw that the Treasures of the Seawall exhibit was happening, and had heard that it was put on by some anonymous benefactor, I figured it might be related to his scheming. But rest assured, my friends, as I said, this is bigger than just his debt to me, which I'm glad that you have now paid. And he kind of, pats at his coin pouch. And he says, he was certain of what he was going to find. I looked over the gems in the exhibit. The ruby at the center looked particularly valuable. I'm certain that he was on his way back to Sharn to pawn it all and pay me and his other debtors, and maybe even get himself to the next Concord with a windfall like this. But everything that's kind of surrounded it, the fact that these bugbear, these flea-bitten scallions? No, these flea-bitten rapscallions from the ridges nearby have set upon us. I think something bigger is at play, and I'm starting to think maybe you all have something on you. You were there guarding that ruby. I saw that hobgoblin specter spring forth from it. Are you all carrying it out of Zalargo by any chance? Where was your destination anyway, friends?
Italian's going to lean forward and say, 75 gold coins, and maybe we'll tell you.
He laughs. And he says, the coin I like, I'll keep that. The trouble, you can keep. Pleasure doing business with you. Maybe we just have the rest of this meal. You know what? I'll take mine in my cabin. And you can see the main entrees have kind of come out now, and you can see that he gestures to the steward and points towards the first class cars. He's making his arrangements to leave. Unless you guys have anything else to interject or say or question at the moment.
I am very, very angrily and idly playing with my steak knife.
Does he have to walk by me to head toward first class?
Yeah, let's say yeah.
All right. So when he walks by me, I'm going to kind of lurch out of my seat and spill my drink on him, and I'm going to try and take the money back with a sleight of hand.
Oh, no.
Which is a 14.
Okay, hang on just a second. You can see you spill your drink, and it's like all in his nicely groomed beard or whatever. A 14, it looks like his passive perception is a 15. Nope, hold on. Nope, it's a 12. Never mind. So you get your hand on his coin, on his wallet, basically. Are you... You're gonna take the whole thing? I mean, I guess this is
I don't really know that there's any other way to do it. I think I just have to try and take the whole thing, really.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Unless somebody has a better idea in terms of trying to get coin literally out of the purse and leave the purse.
I mean, you're just gonna sneak back into his room like he doesn't.
Yeah.
All right. You do pull it off of his belt in that moment. You could see that he mostly, like, he probably still reads some intentionality on your drink spilling, but he just kind of like leers at you and he goes like, "That's no way to sustain a business relationship." But you can see the stewards kind of rush to him and kind of offer to escort him off and help him remove the stain from his outfit and everything. So he kind of gets bustled out of there, still just kind of like leering at you as he goes. But yeah, no, you pull his pouch off. So you.
So in that, after he's gone, I take the coin out, just the 75. I don't want to really, rob this guy. And I get out of my seat and I walk toward the steward and I say, he dropped his coin purse. So
oh man! All right. The steward goes, "Oh yes, of course, thank you," and kind of bustles out after the rest of them to see to that.
When Talion sits back down, a ghost is going to say, "That wasn't a very good story. You tell much better stories than that, Talion. Maybe you should get people to pay you for your stories, and then you wouldn't be poor."
Speaking of money,
Yeah.
Talion's just gonna look at
real
Gideon,
Yeah.
and he's gonna take the whole pouch of the 120 that has the 75 back in it, and he's just gonna hand it to Gideon and sit back down.
Kind of leaning forward over my, over my entree, whatever I'm eating. Never step between a soldier and his pay. If you want me to bleed and die in service of you, you'll pay on time.
That's fair.
And
That's
you
fair.
will never shortchange.
That's fair. And Talion's just kind of nodding. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And reaches into his own purse and pulls out 5 gold pieces and hands it and says, "That's fair. That's fair."
all right. I would say, Azure, since you were kind of a later addition to this crew, Codger arranged for you to get paid as well. So you would have probably actually already just been giving yours directly since the rest was sent to Talion. So I guess everybody gets like 40 gold or whatever.
You're gonna eat my. Watch the show.
Yeah.
I'll gladly go back to being personal once we all have our nice and even wages and nothing's being done under the table.
Yeah. Fine.
Well, after that moment of excitement, you don't see Worfcar kind of reemerge into the dining car for the remainder of the evening. After dinner is completed, you can see that a couple of the tables near the center of the dining car are kind of cleared off, and the group kind of begins to gather around. Some individuals that you've seen before, and some perhaps that you haven't seen yet on this voyage, who haven't been present in the sitting car. A ghost. You were, as I said, in the sitting car kind of the whole time, so you missed the announcement about the unicorns run. But I'm going to assume that your companions probably filled you in on the excitement. Did you want to buy into the tournament?
How much is it?
It's 25 gold. So you get 20 of that is your horde, basically. It's the game is 3 dragon ante, and then the other 5 is just being pocketed by the obnoxious little gnome in the purple and green suit. That's Quispar. Are you gonna?
Yeah, absolutely. A ghost will definitely want to buy in and will loudly pronounce that he's never played this game before, but he's read all about it.
Perfect.
I know all the rules.
Okay. So Quispar then fans out a series of 8 cards. You could see that for the most part, like Menace kind of lingers around. The Sharn family kind of retreats away from the dining car. The halfling is there watching on with some interest. But Quispar fans out 8 cards and tells each of the competitors to pick one. So you know that there are 8 individuals in this tournament. One of them, Gideon, might catch your eye because you can tell that he is one of your countrymen. There's an older Carnathi gentleman with white hair and white mustaches. You could see that he is kind of holding himself with that same kind of stiff posture that you probably maintain. And he is just standing back at the moment the cards are offered out, waiting for others to pick first, kind of like eyeing his the field here. You also see a Zill woman. She's a human, not a gnome, but she is Zillargo, of course. She is somewhat aristocratic. She's like a little bit more well-dressed than the remainder of them. You can see that her Klebdesher dress, let's say, is like from this season and not as patchwork as Quispar's is or whatever. then you would also see a halfling and a halfling and another human man, both of them Brellish, and you would actually also see Monty, the mage right that fought with you. The other competitor involved in this, you did see briefly in the seating car, is a shifter woman. Like long-toothed shifter, very like feline features, like a lioness basically. And she's kind of standing there, also like eyeing the crowd, and she kind of like nudges the halfling to pick first. But basically, by fanning out these 8 cards, Quispar tells you that 4 of them are chromatic dragons and 4 of them are metallic dragons, and they will determine what table you are seated at for the first night of gambling. We will be at... we will play for a short while and perhaps take a break when we reach Zollenberg. And then we'll resume gambling tomorrow evening. Whoever is the leader of chips, and by the way, Ghost, you were given in exchange for your 20 gold coins, 20 like purple and green chips with like little unicorn heads drawn on them.
Okay.
He says whoever the chip leaders are as we reach Star Alaska will be the ones who have seats at the table with the reigning champion. He takes your money, a Ghost, the 25 gold, and like I said, he gives you the 20 tokens to kind of represent your horde. And everyone kind of begins to draw. Let's say, Azure, why don't you roll for it? Just a straight up D20 roll.
4.
So you end up drawing a metallic. So you are seated at a table with, I'll give you their names in just a moment, but let me just jot down what you've got here. And so a Ghost, you actually end up drawing a chromatic, as luck would have it. So you are seated at a different table.
Okay.
Not that all of these individuals are particularly friendly, but just through context, as conversation does kind of burble up and die out, and you can see that the majority of these people seem to know one another. Perhaps they played in the previous Unicorns run. This is a tradition on its second year. To your left, you have Laram. He's the Brellish man. He seems to be a close companion of the halfling at the other table. And everybody seems to be very happy that they were split up. Saying, last year you took it too easy on each other. You can't form an alliance at a table like this. This is a game amongst friends. Seated across from you is Zan, the Zalargo aristocratic-looking woman. And you can see that she doesn't speak at all, but a couple of times, like Quispar and some of the others call her by her name, and that's how you end up picking it up. And to your right is Brambleclaw. Brambleclaw also speaks very little, but does loudly sniff the air from time to time, and like look about. Yeah. Laram actually probably like looks over at you at one point and says like, she thinks she gets a read on people like that. She thinks it gives her an edge. And Brambleclaw just kind of like drums her like clawed fingertips on the table and just glares at him. A Ghost, at your table, you do have the halfling. He introduces himself to you. He is a little bit more charismatic as Foxalon, aka Foxy. Seated across from you is Kern, who reminds you maybe of like an older version of Gideon. He's the Carnathi gentleman. And seated to your right is Monty, the one-armed Brellish man. Although you can see shortly as the card game begins that he does use the mage hand to kind of help in card games as well. So he does have that advantage. That being said, Three Dragon Ante is a pretty standard card game. If you're not proficient in it, I would say you may have at least played it before. Although, a Ghost, if you have truly not played it before...
Yeah, never.
Oh, man, Quispar comes over and just gives you the quickest rundown he possibly can. He points to the numbers. He explains a lot about the colors on the cards. You can see that they all depict dragons. And a few of them depict, like, he calls them mortals, and they say things like the Fool and the Dragon Priest and things like that. it seems to mostly like you're maybe absorbing it. What's your intelligence? I mean, you're probably
I'm a wizard. My intelligence
yeah.
is 16.
So
yeah, I'd probably have read books that talked about the strategy of the game. I've just never actually played the game.
Sure, perfect. So you could see that once the seats are assigned and people have kind of taken those seats, Quisbar goes about make sure that everybody, he gives each deck of card a good shuffle and cut, and sets you all up. And he kind of loudly pronounces to the group that he wishes you all the best of luck. May the mockery smile upon you. He kind of gives like a big grin at that. But he would say, and let the games begin. So for this, there are a couple of different ways that you can approach Three Dragon Ante, depending on what your strength is. So I'm guessing neither of you are proficient in the set, right?
What?
Neither of you are proficient in the gaming set. Okay. So you can play by wisdom, intelligence, charisma, or dexterity. Playing by wisdom is kind of the default, and it seems to be the way that most people tend to play the game. It's your ability to read your opponents and the situation at hand. You intuit when to play the right card at the right time or how to minimize losses. But unless you get lucky or your opponents falter, you aren't likely to win the big stakes. Intelligence. This approach involves things like counting cards and analyzing opponents' choices over the course of gambits to construct likely scenarios and devise a strategy. When you are successful, you've had acceptable losses and a calculated win that offsets those losses. Charisma. This playstyle is all about bravado or deception. You play with confidence and without hesitation to put opponents off their game or bait them into growing the stakes until you're ready to make your big play. This approach is not likely to make friends at the table, but it is an acceptable way to play. And typically, the dexterity involves cheating. You will perhaps nab an extra coin or two from the stakes when you play the Black Dragons, or perhaps you have better cards on your person ready to be plucked and played at the right moment. If you fail to pull this off bad enough, you will almost certainly be kicked out of the game, or maybe worse. And you can always vary your approach in any given exchange here. So let's just learn by doing, and if this gets too cumbersome, we can kind of dispatch with it and just turn it into skill rolls or whatever. Azure, what is your passive perception? So 10.
9.
Okay. And a Ghost, what is your passive perception?
9.
Okay.
Wisdom is my dump stat.
So this opposes anybody who might be using sleight of hand to cheat. So you guys might not be the best at spotting that, but nonetheless, Azure, at your table, Bramble Call kind of starts off the game strong. The anti-cards are all placed in the center of the table and turned face up. The strongest anti-card sets the stakes for the game. And Brambleclaw actually antes with the Red Dragon a 10, which means that the first pot immediately turns into a big one, as each person has to push in 10 of their chips. Now, with the game as it is, the stakes change. So the pot in the middle isn't a fixed point. You can play cards that allow you to take from that pot. You can play cards that allow you to take from other players. Basically, you're going to make a skill check using one of those skills, whichever you choose, wisdom, intelligence, charisma, or dexterity. And if you don't beat everyone at the table, you at least don't want to do the worst at the table. Whoever rolls the worst is the one that really loses without getting anything back. The middle of the pack usually comes out with something. So Azure, let's just deal with your round first.
Gotcha. I'm going to go with charisma, because, wisdom's my dump stat. Dex isn't bad, but charisma is my best.
Okay.
The D20 roll?
Yep, go ahead and roll a D20 and add your charisma bonus.
That's a 13. I thought it was an 18 roll. So 13.
13 total? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was an 18 at first.
Okay. So your hand kind of begins, and you could see that Laram even though Brambleclaw played the highest anti-card and kind of gets the lead of this particular gambit, you can see that Laram seems to be positioning himself to pull off the best win. And he seems to be playing, just kind of using that intuition. You think that he's like a professional gambler, like he has proficiency in this deck. So I'll come back to you in just a second when I figure out your wins and losses and whatnot. A Ghost, something similar happens at your table. Kern leads with a copper dragon, a 10. So it's a big pot. You know that you've read that in your study of the strategy, that sometimes, like, looking at your opening hand, you might decide that you have what you need to kind of make a strong play from the gate. And you think that Kern has some confidence in what he's got here. But go ahead and, like I said, it's wisdom, intelligence, charisma, or dexterity.
Intelligence. I rolled a natural 20, and I have +3, so 23.
Damn. Okay, hold on. Let's see what everybody else at the table gets. So play proceeds at your table as well. And Kern's strategy seems to fall apart relatively quickly. He leads in that first gambit, but you could see that, like, Foxy starts to throw a lot of black dragons, which means that he gets to, like, steal from the pot in the center. So he is nabbing a few coins here and there. Monty does the same, pulling from the stakes, playing a few cards. So let's see here real quick. Should have made this simpler.
So a Ghost is going to be looking around, and again, in my head, I'm imagining this more like a Wild West situation. So I'm sure there's like one person who's doing the thing with the coins, like, running them down their fingers. So a Ghost tries to do that, but because I only have 2 fingers, it just means it goes back and forth. Somebody probably has a toothpick, so I'm going to find one of those. I'm going to take everything that everyone's doing and do all of them at the same time.
All the tropes.
All the tropes, yes. I'm going to collect every trope that everyone else is using, and I'm going to, the way I hold my cards, or everything. I'm just mimicking what everyone else is doing, but again, everyone at the same time.
Okay.
Sunglasses, visor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, like, I don't have an expression, but I'm still going to try to hide my poker face. Like, I'm going to try to, like, look at my cards subtly. I'll say interesting every time. Interesting. Interesting.
All right. So each of these checks represents maybe a good, like, 15 or 20 minutes of card playing. Basically, in 3 Dragon Ante, you play 3 cards, which determines your the strength of your dragon flight, and each of the dragons is either a chromatic or a metallic, kind of mimicking the dragons that you would encounter in the world. You could see that by the end of the first gambit at your table, Azure, Laram does win, and he wins pretty big. You do make back a couple of coins just by picking out of the pot. Azure completes a strength flight, which means that he plays like a blue dragon, a red dragon, and a black dragon that are all 7 strength. So he steals a bit from the pot as well. But Laram comes out of it with the majority of the stakes at your table. A Ghost, go ahead and roll 1d6 for me.
Okay. 6.
So at your table, a Ghost, it seems like Kern, whatever bravado he had when he led with that high anti-card to set the stakes that high, kind of backfires on him, because you come out of it with the majority of the stakes. Foxy, you could see like every time he plays a black dragon, his hands flash to the center of the table and he like flicks a coin up and catches it in his teeth or some other flashy move like that. So he makes a few coins back from the stakes as well. Kern actually ends up losing a bit on that hand. He doesn't really make back enough of it. So it seems like Kern has kind of taken up the back of the pack, where Foxy and Monty are even, and you come out of it with the majority. Azure, you feel like you're in the middle of the pack at your table, but Laram has kind of established an early lead in this. So yeah, that represents maybe about like 20 minutes of card playing. Maybe you guys actually do like a couple of gambits in that time. But we just need one. We need another check from the group here.
Yeah. That's better.
Too much.
You all right?
19.
Wow.
Much better.
Oof. So it's funny, going into this, you would have thought that Zan and Kern, with kind of their serious demeanor, were the stiffest competitors that you would face. What was your total?
For me, 19.
19. Okay. And you're playing with charisma?
Yes.
Okay. You think that Zan has gotten, like, her nerves have gotten a little frayed, and she seems mad at you through the mid game here. She's also seems to be losing more than she anticipated on the first night as well. So go ahead and roll roll 1d6 for me.
3.
And so you think that Zan's attitude towards you has shifted from like indifferent to like kind of hostile. Like by the end of the mid game, you can see that she is just leering at you. She actually like flicks a card in your direction. She played a blue dragon that round, and after her strategy didn't really happen, she just like flicks it in your direction. You actually also, because of that roll, you beat Laram by enough that you actually have advantage on your next intelligence check. So you set yourself up. You win the pots in the mid round, but you also set yourself up. You have like a growing like a color flight. Like you actually probably look at your hand and you have like 3 blues that you're ready to play in the next gambit, and you're like, all right, this is how I'm going to get their money. A Ghost, what was your roll this round?
I got 19 total as well.
All right.
I'm sorry, there's like a little gnat flying around, so if you see me, like, I'm not like losing my mind. I'm trying to kill this thing. Maybe a little bit of both.
Monty starts to struggle in the mid game. He is losing a bit of his hoard at this point. The chips are changing hands here a bit. Okay, so it looks like in either of your two games, Monty is kind of the one down at the chromatics table, and Zan is the one who is losing substantially. You can see that she seems particularly frustrated. Laram kind of leans over to you in a moment between hands, Azure, and he says, Zan was runner-up last year. She's the favorite here, but she's having a rough night.
Yeah, such to be her.
All right.
How long are we playing? I mean, not we playing. How long are they playing 3-card?
So by now it is coming up on like about an hour, maybe like it looks like maybe after this next gambit, You guys are going to be reaching Zollenberg, and it'll probably like adjourn for the evening, so people can handle whatever business they might have in Zollenberg or turn in for the night. It'll be like close to like 8 or 9 o'clock by then. But I just need one more set of checks from a lot of you, and Azure, like I said, you have advantage because you won so successfully in the mid game.
19 again. Both rolls are pretty good.
Well, 19 again?
Okay. That's all my good rolls were. I was saving up for pre-dragon energy. Yeah.
Yeah. And a ghost, what was your roll?
So I'll lean over to Monty and say I could recommend some good books on this game if you would like, and then I roll an 8.
Nice. By the end of your game, Kern is leering over at Foxy, and he says, "You're not nicking any extra coins or anything over there, are you? Let me see your tokens. Are they all the standard issue?" And Foxy is just kind of giving him crap right back, like, "Oh, old man, you need glasses to see these tokens from that far, huh?" But Monty again is kind of bombing out here in that final round. Let's see, Foxy 18. Oh, he beat you by 2 shifts. So it looks like Kern has gotten suspicious of Foxy, thinking that he might be cheating. But Foxy comes out ahead at the end of the night, taking this the last pot here. So let's just see how much. And that pot was 6, 12, 18, 24. And Monty loses out again. Okay. I need to crunch some numbers. So the hour or so of gambling that you guys have done, it's probably, like I said, all in all, a little over an hour. Sometimes, there's a little bit of conversation between Quispar comes over to check on things, make sure that everything is going accordingly. Brambleclaw just kind of always sneers at him in an effort to make him go away. But let's just take a quick look here and crunch some numbers. You guys are going to reach Zollenberg in this time as well. And at Zollenberg, even though it is fairly late at night at the time you arrive, you could see that in the open air cargo cart that's kind of in the back of the train, they do load up a bunch of ore. So it seems like iron ore. It takes a little bit to load that onto the train, and it does make a decent amount of noise that... Fortunately, it's not too late at night at this point, so you guys probably aren't trying to turn in at this point. But since the train has stopped here and is stopping to take on, you could see that, as she said, the dragon-marked heir, the co-captain, does head off of the train. Not too far from the platform would be like a Civis echoer station where you could relay a message if you so chose to. So I know you guys have... a contact for Codger. I don't know if it would occur to you, Talion, to radio back or...
It would occur to me based on just the excitement of the first part and the knowledge that this is not normal in terms of the attack. So I wouldn't send much of a message. It would just be something to the effect of more excited than anticipated. No problems. We'll report more as soon as we can.
No problems. All right, interesting take. Yeah, so you would think that you relay that message. One of the scribes at the Echoer station does take it down. He looks at the glyphs on like the business card that you've been provided, and so he knows where to relay that message to. And he says, "Very well." And he kind of like. I think that with your station, like being a member of House Civis, you probably get these services for free, I would think. So. You show whatever like identification papers you have that mark you, and he says, "Very well then. This is kind of an odd code. I thought these stations were decommissioned, but you sure that there's someone to receive it on the other end?"
Yes.
All right. Azure, you are the second in ship leaders amongst your table. Laram has edged you out by just a little bit. Zan is trailing behind you, but actually by the end of the night you look over and see that the stack of chips in front of Brambleclaw has like completely just like pattered out. Zan is still like glaring daggers, and by the time Quispar comes in and calls an end to the game when you guys are reaching the station, she immediately just gets up and storms off. She is unhappy with her lot in life presently. But that is the action at your table.
Okay.
At your table, a ghost. Let's take a quick crunch of the numbers here. It seems like Monty is having the roughest time, but at the end of the night, you take a look at everyone's hoard and you try to make an estimation of how much you're up and how much that means everyone else would have lost. Hang on just a second. And then you look at how much you're up. 3. Hold on, where's your numbers at? I should have put these in a much more logical order. Ghost, you think that you have finished second at your table as well. There isn't going to be a grand accounting until the time that you've reached Star Alaska. But at your table, it seems like you're trailing Foxy. Kern, like I said, is convinced at this point that Foxy is cheating. He's like just implied as much at this point. And it looks like Kern is only doing slightly better than Monty, and Monty is kind of bringing up the end of your table. So both of you feel pretty secure in your position as this first night comes to an end. That being said, by the time the train reaches Zollenberg and then departs Zollenberg, unless there's anything you guys want to get off the train and do there, it is like 8:30 or close to 9 p.m. The next stop for the train would be in Sterngate. And you know that's kind of the last stop in Zalargo. At that point, when the train leaves from there, it doesn't stop again until it reaches Star Alaska, which is kind of the longest part of the trip. So you think you'll be at Sterngate in the morning. By tomorrow evening after dinner, you'll actually be at Star Alaska. So Quispar says that the games will resume tomorrow after lunch. To determine who the chip leaders are, and those 3 ship leaders will have a seat with the champion who is boarding at Star Alaska. So by this time tomorrow night, the champion will be aboard, and you guys will play the following night en route to Rote, the capital of Breland, to determine who is this year's champion of the Unicorn Run. Is there any other bits of business you guys want to attend to before we wrap up tonight's session?
So just as a, I kind of want to know a little bit more about the setup for this game. I realize that, you said that there's some potential for cheating amongst some of the players. What kind of steps are taken to curtail that as much as possible?
Is this a question you're addressing to Quizbar? Or...
No, it's a question I'm addressing to you. What would I have observed? What would I have observed?
I think you would have observed, of all the players, and maybe because Kern complained the loudest, it does seem like Foxy had the strangest turns of luck, and he does tend to play. He does tend to play a lot more of the like black and blue and green. A lot of the chromatic dragons that'll actually allow you to like reach into the pot. So you think that it's possible that he could have been, taking an extra coin here or there, or that he could maybe have cards concealed on him that he's pulling at the right moments. But he never, if he's doing it, it's something that must be second nature to him. With this suspicion in mind, if you wanted to definitely make sure you kept an eye on him tomorrow night, which it sounds like that's Kern's plan at this point, you can make like an active perception check to kind of watch more closely. I would say without that, since it's such a prolonged period of time, I think it's more a factor of your passive perception. And if he is cheating, it never got low enough to trigger anybody's perception at the table that they could point to it and prove it.
So in terms of at the table itself, I don't see a third party that's not participating that appears to be looking for cheating or anything like that. There's not like another person at the table that's actually actively looking.
No, Quizbar circulated between the 2 tables, just kind of walking about and occasionally chiming in and talking to the players briefly. But you make an investigation check, I guess, or a perception check to get a read of that.
$23.
Wow. Your read of the situation is such that Quizbar may be monitoring the situation, but he mostly got 5 gold off of everybody just for putting this thing together, and that seems to be good enough for him. So it might just be that he's standing back and kind of letting the industry regulate itself. So if somebody is caught provably cheating and action is taken, he'll be there to nod. But you would also read that these people all seem like they were here at the previous year. This seems like something they've done before, and that Quizbar has said that this is the 2nd annual or whatever. So you think that these individuals all know each other, and that this is kind of just an embellishment on what is otherwise a friendly game, even if a couple of the personalities involved are taking it very seriously. So that's how you piece together the social network here, I guess.
And then that one guy's got his little mage hand. So magic is happening at the time that these games are taking place too, right?
Yeah. His mage hand seems to be serving as a facsimile of his lost hand. It doesn't seem like it's giving him an advantage, but if you want to be the one to call it on him, it's probably.
Oh no! I'm just observing, and then. So before I call it a night, I am going to go up to Azure, who I believe I'm the one who sponsored her, and I'm going to say, "We're doing good. I've got a plan before the next game."
Sounds sinister.
All right.
All right, perfect. Well, an evening of a day of combat. A day of riding the lightning rail and an evening of gambling. We see the camera kind of pull back as the lightning rail begins to depart Zollenberg with its iron ore cargo loaded, not slowing it down really any at all. The massive force of the air elemental just pulling it along as it gets out of the station and gets underway. And your guys' next stop would be Sterngate. Sterngate, more of a fortress than a city, kind of a military installation against the seawall mountains. You guys are still paralleling the seawall, so it may be best to kind of look out for potential raiding parties and such. But we'll see what happens next time, I guess. I'll wrap it up for there. All right, perfect. I'm going to go ahead. So the next round will definitely involve some skill checks, but I'm going to fix up my flowchart here and make that move a little bit quicker. Sorry that stalled out. I made it overly complicated, and I thought it would play quicker. But yeah, so there still will be skill checks involved, so you can think about that however you want. I don't know if your plan has anything to do with that. But yeah,
It does. It does.
there still will be skill checks, and there will be the opportunity now that cheating has been so thoroughly alleged. I would also say, Italian, by the way, Menace was kind of standing there, but he was standing there expressionless, so you don't know if he was watching for cheating. He didn't seem to be communicating with Monty, so you don't think Monty's cheating necessarily, but... Alright, perfect. Well, let's wrap it here then. Any questions, comments, concerns, things you like, things you don't like? Like I said, I'll speed up the minigame for the second round, but you guys are doing fairly well. And there's going to be a bit of hand-waving as far as, like, you're up by so many tokens and they're down by so many because... You know, it's like Hollywood math. It just all happens. And well, that being said, I have been your Dungeon Master this evening. My name is Ralph. I am on Twitter at Critthulu, CRITTHULHU. And thanks for watching and listening. And Al?
I'm Big Al, at Big Al the Lawyer on Twitter, playing Talia and Tildavandi, a little man with big ideas.
A little man with far too much of Gideon's money in his pocket. I'm Andy. I've been Blackball Press at Twitter and Facebook.
Okay. I'm Jules, and I'm on Facebook at The Sturdy Home.
And I'm Michael. I'm at the RPG Academy, and you can find everything I do over there.
And Michael, do you want to just throw out a plug for your new baby?
Absolutely. Just today, when this is live, we launched a Catacon Kickstarter. Catacon is a gaming convention that I'm the lead organizer for. The actual event is in November in Dayton, Ohio, but the Kickstarter, if it funds, we can afford to pay all of our upfront deposits and costs. It's very important that we do fund, and we're off to a really good start. So I would love if more people, even if you can't come, just maybe throw like $5 at it. Thank you. Great. But it'd be more important if you can come.
Corporate sponsor of the RPG Academy.
Yes, absolutely. Blackball. Yeah.
Yep, I'm backing as soon as we hang up here. But all right, guys, have a good night, and I'll see you in a fortnight.